Hello once again, and welcome to Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven, 28-year veteran writer, illustrator, and editor of comics, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and role-playing game communities. It is Wednesday, so that's usually our comic book day. We usually talk about what we got this week. Well, unfortunately, this week has been a very small week for me. I only got one book, and that was We Live #4 from Aftershock. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. That will be reviewed on Monday along with some other books. But today we will do some additional reviews like I promised on Monday, or actually yesterday, Tuesday, because I didn't get to do our regular reviews on Monday this week. So before we start wondering what's going on, let's go ahead and do the reviews. Let's see if I got that thing. Here we go. We're going to start with Distant Worlds, volumes 1 through 4. They're $15.99 each. The publisher is Cinebook UK. The writer is Leo, translation by Mark Bentz, because it's a Spanish comic translated to English. And the artist is either, I believe it's pronounced Icar. Genre science fiction. And what it's about, in search of his missing father, Paul Clouden makes a long journey across the planet Altair 3, accompanied by an unusual companion, a Stepanarch, an extraterrestrial being with impressive intellect, sensory perceptions, and strength, traits that will prove essential to their very survival. Paul's adventures are more about the abusive nature of humanity. As he seeks out his father, he faces thieves, bounty hunters, and mobsters. All the while, there's this mystery of another nature that's going on, one that only the Stepanarch's race has really been paying any attention to throughout the story. And the Steps discover part of the answer to the said mystery just as Paul's figured out his father's fate and the story arc, or at least the 4 issues, ends. It's very well done overall. I enjoy Icar's work, although I do wish Altair looked a little more exotic or alien, but then if it did, it probably wouldn't be that hospitable to humans. It's recommended for ages 16 and up, and I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Let's take a look at some of the artwork. This is the first few pages as the family is coming from Earth to Altair 3. Paul's father has supposedly paid for them to come to the new planet from Earth, and they go to meet him, and he doesn't show up, and that's why you're saying he's missing, and he's trying to find out what's going on. Later in the story, he gets taken underwater in a sub by a scientist who's showing him how some of the farming that's being done by the humans is causing ecological damage. And then there's the Stepanarch, which is this crab-like alien. And they got these like giant rhinoceros boar alien types, elephant type aliens that are blocking the path for them to travel through the water. And they're like, we don't know what to do. The humans are like that. So he's like, I'll see what I can do. And he marches down there, and he basically just entertains them enough that they let the guys pass through. And like, how did you do that? Well, it's simple. We just entertained them. You don't need to be violent about it. And that's kind of what the whole theme of this story is. Almost all the humans are extremely violent and always use force to get what they want, and cause problems for each other rather than be, good to one another. And the Stepanarch is kind of like this, I don't want to call it a conscience, but an observer of this, and how he doesn't understand why humans can't get along with the world around them. Overall, it's a pretty cool story. The mystery at the end They think that there's been a portal from other planets that allows you to get transferred from Altair to another planet, and at the very end, they open the portal and get sucked into it in the next book, which there is a fifth book out. I just haven't gotten it yet. Apparently, the Stepanerk and Paul are going to be wherever they got swept to. Our next magazine is Heavy Metal 302, and it's $13.99. The publisher is Heavy Metal Media. The writers are Patrick Norbert, David Irwin, and Matthew Medney, Timothy E. Bacon, Brendan Columbus, Matthew Medney, solo story, Emilio Valcarce and H.E. Lopez, Dylan Sprouse, George C. Romero, Mark Baudet, Mark McCann and Peter Duncan, Edgar Roggenbaum, Michael Lopez, and Michelle Sears. Artists are Tonino Liberatore, Jackson Butch Geis, Timothy E. Bacon, Al Barrion Nuevo, Herman Ponce, Alberto Calva, Jock, that's not with a C either. That's J-O-K. Carlos Magno, Diego Yapur, Mark Baudet, William Simpson, Patricio Del Peque, Lem, and Bart Sears. Colorists are Chris Sotomayor, Candice Hahn, Proto Bunker Studios, Saida Timofante, DCL Alonso, Piria Pelaye, and I believe Patricio Del Peque also does colors on one of the books as well. The genre is varied science fiction fantasy. It's a 152-page anthology, and it was released in December of 2020. What it's about? It's basically $13 for 14 different story features and 2 interview articles, one with Mark Baudet. And all I can say is, wow. This is what a comics anthology magazine should look like. This is what it should be. Now, I don't have time to go through the premise of every single story. It just take all night. What I can say is that I didn't see any weak stories in the anthology, and this is very uncommon in the format. There's usually 1 or 2 stories in an anthology that one doesn't necessarily like, whether that be Dark Horse Presents or any of the other ones that have been around for a long time. And even Heavy Metal has had that issue for me over the years. But the current roster of products seems to be pretty good. The diversity of range of art styles represented in this issue was superb, and I believe the current management for Heavy Metal Media has a solid vision for their brand. I would love to see another magazine comparable to this format. Recommended for mature readers 17 and up, with a rating of 5 stars. So let's take a look at something else on here. This is one of the stories. This is the Tarna story by Butch Geis and Chris Sotomayor for the artwork. There's a separate Tarna comic from Heavy Metal, but it's not the same creative team. And I reviewed that last week. This is a different story. It's a nice, interesting one-shot story in this one. Here's some more of that artwork. This is pages from Darkwing segment of the story. Art by Herman Ponce and Proto Bunker Studio for the colors. Child's asking about the history of humanity, basically, and the nebula. Talking to the AI about wanting answers because the teacher's not giving her the answer she wants. And continuing the story of humanity's violence towards one another. As you can see, Darkwing over here on the 3rd page here, They've actually decided to take some of these stories, not all of them, but some of them, and offer them as regular comics separately at $3.99 a piece. Um, I guess that works okay for some people. It's interesting. They give you 24 pages of original stories and some extras in each one of them. I did see the Savage Circus one, which Savage Circus is also in this magazine. Um, that was available at my store today, but I I'm kind of the idea of I'd rather pay $14 and get all the stories in one format. But other people would feel differently. So I think that's a smart idea by the company to separate it that way. So because a lot of people might not want anthologies, but they might want to read one or two of those stories. So it's not a bad idea. Our next product is Origins number 3 of 6 for $3.99. Publisher is Boom Studios. The writer is Clay Chapman. The artist is Jacob Rebelka, with colorist Patricio Del Peque, who I just mentioned over at Heavy Metal. So there you go. The genre is science fiction, and it was released last week, January 13th. What it's about, the artificial intelligence Chloe rescues her human charge David from certain death, but they are discovered by a village of robots. Who in turn take them in and nurse David back to health. David in turn updates many of the robots' programmings, but Chloe begins to question her purpose and whether David truly needs her anymore. Just when the hunters find the village and attack. Recommended for ages 13 and up. I give it a 3.5 stars. It's been a while. The story hasn't really held up for me in terms of holding in my memory. The artwork's okay. Let's take a look at the art. It's got a nice, kind of a Simon Bisley feel to it in a way. The painterly Simon Bisley, that is. And this is where David's fixing up all the different robots in the village. And the AI Chloe is bottom left corner on the right side of the page is Chloe is observing the woman in the cape, red cape, is observing him and wondering whether or not she's doing worth being around. Hello, Mark. And I know you're just being silly. That's okay. I've gotten used to having few to no viewers on some of these shows. People watch afterwards. It's fine. And I think that's pretty much our reviews for the week. Let me see. Yeah, it is. So next week on Monday will be January 25th. As I said, I only got the We Live number 4 issue this week at my store. So, and I'm behind on reviews anyway. So that's what we'll do on Mondays. We'll talk about We Live number 3 and 4 because I never reviewed number 3. Backtrack 9 and 10. And The Star Conspiracy. And we'll do some other stuff as well. And there's the We Live number 4 that I got today. But I have to wait and see what's going on. It's an interesting cover. I can say that much. But yeah, it's been kind of a crazy week with my father going into the hospital. And I kind of had a migraine today for the first time in my life. And at least that's what I think it was. I woke up around 12:40 and my eyes were swollen up in here like really bad, and I couldn't open them, and I couldn't hardly function for about 2 hours. So it's not fun. At first, we thought maybe it was COVID, but I don't have any other signs of it. So hopefully, that's all it was a migraine, and I won't have one of them again anytime soon. I don't want that feeling again. But that'll be it for tonight. And I know it's a short episode, but tomorrow we will have. It says guests this week to be determined with question and live answers for Thursday, but I just found out that Steve Steglin, who's a comic illustrator and newspaper cartoonist out of North Carolina, I think. But he also worked at Caliber Press back in the day. He'll be one of our guests, and I might have some more as well. So that'll be tomorrow at 9 p.m. Again, we'll have Steve, and I don't know who else yet. I'm waiting to hear back. Hopefully, we'll have a couple of other individuals as well. So, that being said, if you want to reach me, you can reach me online at Facebook. Lost and Wallace says, I appreciate you, man. I'll try to tune in if I can. That's cool. Lost and, no problem. But if you want to reach me, Facebook, Lewis.BrightRaven. On Twitter at LewisBrightRave2. I don't spend a whole lot of time on Twitter. All I usually do is just post links to this podcast, to be honest. But you can try me. At DeviantArt at deviantart.com/BrightRaven. On YouTube at Quoth the Raven, Lewis BrightRaven. You can email me at quothetheravenlbr72@gmail.com or lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. And that'll be it for tonight, folks. So I'll see you guys tomorrow at 9 p.m. Wednesdays. There you go, guys. See you next time.